So let's make sure that people understand that we've got a statutory consultation going on at the moment. This doesn't come in, if it does come in, until the 1st of May. The way the law is written is that we have to invite objections following a notice in the newspaper that's available for 14 days, and that's where we are. 25 people wrote to me over the Easter period, and I thank them for it. Made some really good points, and we'll discuss each of those points. Basically, at the airport, we've got around 7 million, if not more, subvention to the airport. That's the difference between the revenue that comes in from passengers as they go through the process of going into the airport, and also from when they fly. And what it costs to run the airport, it costs about at least 12 million to run the airport. That's where we are. We got a report going to Tynwald in April that says that one way to deal with that is to increase what's called non-aero income. That's catering, parking, retailing, and perhaps the property income around. And myself and the political member wanted to make Tynwald members, before we debate that report in April, want to make it quite clear to them that we weren't just thinking about the future in terms of the governance of the airport, just so the difficult decisions could be made by somebody else. We wanted to put on the table that the fact is that we don't have free parking at the. We have free parking for an hour at the Isle of Man airport. Most other airports don't. And we have relatively cheap charges. It's on the table. Might not come in on 1st of May because we've invited objections at the moment.
Most other airports, though, have largely tourist travel on the Isle of Man. We send a lot of our patients, for example, go through the airport. It's not the same kind of travel. So
that's another proposal, but we can't just keep spending money. We've got to raise money. So another proposal in the document that myself and the political member signed was that we wanted to enter into discussions with ManxCare, because about 5,000 of the 17,000 people who travel with ManxCare each year get free buses because of various reasons to the airport, free other transport. We could create free or cheaper parking for patient transfer, and that was one of the options that's on the table if we have extra money to enable us, and that's one of the 4 or 5 decisions that we made.
You mentioned that the statutory consultation, it did open last week. The details of that were published in the Courier on Friday. It's a fairly small notice. It's one of about 10 that were published on a quarter of a page advert in the Courier. I think it's page 27 if you're looking for it. Oh, excuse me, frog in the throat. It's not, though, on government's consultation hub.
Because this is not a public consultation. What sort of question would you ask? Do you want free car parking? The answer would be yes. Do you want cheaper car parking? The answer would be yes. What this is a statutory consultation.
Is it accessible enough, though? It is. You've got to be looking for it.
The law says it has to be in a newspaper. That's what the law says. And we have to invite objections, which is what we're doing. It's not a public consultation. We will have a public consultation on parking in the next year around the island. So, for instance, at the airport, you have to pay on the way in. Some people have made a mistake that they haven't paid on the way in, because there are some other car parks around the island where you pay on the way out, and that's caused some confusion. So we will have a consultation on parking. We'll also have a consultation on things like patient transfer, but we're in a lot worse position in terms of thinking about patient transfer and some other improvements that need to be made at the airport if we don't have the income. And as it's completely clear to the public this morning, money is tight in the Isle of Man. That's the result of the Freedom of Information responses. ManxCare is dealing with 20 million or so less coming in than it needs, it believes, to provide the healthcare system that's been in place in the past. Before we close, I just wanted to clarify some confusion. There's talk about a seasonal rate of £120. That doesn't mean that you can't park with short stay for a short stay in the other car park. That's a misconfusion. So there'll definitely need to be at least one change in the order to make that clear. Secondly, lots of people already have proposed half an hour rather than a quarter of an hour for free parking, and that's something that we're seriously considering. And finally, we've got to deal with the equality impact of all of this disability, and the normal procedure is that you have double the time in terms of disc zone parking when you're disabled, and I think that might have been lost from some of the responses I've already had. So hopefully that's helpful. The decision hasn't been made. It's not true to say this order will be coming into force on the 1st of May. It would have been unlawful for the decision to have been signed and the changes to have been made. And I welcome points being made to me and through the official process. We also have to remember that this is not a referendum. This is a test about how we deal with parking at the airport and indeed elsewhere around the island.
Well, you did mention you've had some feedback already over the Easter weekend on this. What has the general feeling been?
Well, people want free car parking in the airport, and they want to pay as little as possible, and that's part of the Manx way. That's the people who've written to me. That's what they've said in summary. But people have made some really good points, which is that half an hour would be better than a quarter of an hour. Make sure you remember disability in all of this, which we have done. And do you really mean that the long-term car park is no longer long-term? You have to have a seasonal pass, and the answer is no. You can still park for the short term in the airport. I can categorically assure people that the order will be adjusted and mended before it comes into force, and it might need therefore to come into force a little bit later. But everything's on the table. We've invited objections as the law requires it, and I appreciate people making serious suggestions to us. It's not a referendum, though. There's no point organising a petition and saying that everybody's against it, because it's quite clear that everybody prefers free parking, and if they have to pay, as little as possible.